the moon that watched over Mia. Mia sat on a stack of cardboard boxes in her new, quiet room. Everything felt strange and far too big. The shadows on the wall looked like giant fingers, and the floorboards creaked in a language she didn't understand. She missed her old bedroom and the familiar yellow streetlights of her old neighborhood. Moving was much harder than her parents had promised it would be. High above the rooftop, Luma began her nightly rounds. She was round and bright, a glowing pearl set against a velvet sky. She noticed the new light in the attic window and paused her slow drift. She saw a little girl who looked as small as a speck of stardust, and Luma decided right then that this house would be her first stop every single night. Mia stepped out onto the back porch, her slippers crunching on the dry leaves. The air was cool and smelled of damp grass. She looked up and saw Luma hanging perfectly still above the oak tree. "Hello," Mia whispered into the quiet. Luma didn't speak, but her silvery light wrapped around Mia's shoulders like a warm, comforting blanket. Inside, the hallway was a long tunnel of darkness. But as Mia walked toward the kitchen for a glass of water, she saw bright rectangles of light dancing on the carpet. Luma was peeking through every single window, following Mia's every step to make sure she didn't trip on a forgotten toy or a loose rug. The house didn't feel quite so big anymore. When it was finally time for sleep, Mia tucked herself under her heavy duvet. Luma leaned in close to the glass of the bedroom window, her glow turning the room into a dreamland of silver and blue. Mia watched the moon until her eyelids grew heavy. She felt safe, knowing she wasn't alone in this new place. But one Tuesday, the wind began to howl. Heavy gray clouds marched across the sky, like a giant, silent army. Mia watched from her window as the stars disappeared one by one, swallowed by the mist. She waited and waited for her friend to appear, but the sky remained dark, empty, and cold. Behind the thick curtain of clouds, Luma was still there. She pushed against the heavy mist, trying to find a gap to show her face. She knew Mia was waiting, and she hated being hidden. Luma glowed as hard as she could, turning the edges of the dark clouds into a bright, shimmering silver. Mia felt a sudden shiver of loneliness. She took out her brightest yellow crayon and a large piece of white paper. She drew a big, perfect circle and colored it until it almost seemed to vibrate on the page. If Luma couldn't find her through the storm, Mia decided she would make a moon of her own to keep the night bright. Suddenly, the wind died down and the rain stopped. The clouds parted like a theater curtain. Mia ran to the balcony and looked up into the clearing sky. There was Luma, brighter and more beautiful than she had ever been before. Mia held up her drawing toward the stars, and for a moment, the two moons seemed to share a secret, glowing smile. Now, whenever the nights are long or the world feels a little too big, Mia remembers the lesson of the storm. She knows that Luma is always there, even when the clouds are thick. Whether she is hidden or shining in full glory, the moon never truly leaves. Mia is never alone, for she has a friend who watches over her and the whole wide world.